So I wake up the other morning and my daughter comes in and she sees I'm wearing my favorite t-shirt, which is a superhero t-shirt. And she's like, Mom, why are you wearing that superhero t-shirt again? And so it gave me pause for a minute because I thought, she knows this is my favorite t-shirt. Why is she asking me that? And then I realized she wasn't asking me why I was wearing my favorite t-shirt. She was asking me why I like superheroes so much. And so I told her my journey about becoming a nurse and working in the emergency department and this phenomenon that I've come to call healthcare superhero syndrome, which is a completely made up term for just something that I had observed and noticed for myself. So I noticed that in order to do all the things that I needed to do every day when I went to work and to be all of the things that I needed to be as a nurse, that I started to armor up my heart and my mind. So in order to hold someone's hand while they were dying and then shake it off and run to the next room and take care of a child who was having their first seizure and tell their parents that they were going to stay overnight so that we could observe and help them through that difficult moment, and then shake that off and run to the next room and get someone ready and prepped to go to the next place because they're having a heart attack and they need care immediately in the cath lab. And so in order to do all of that over and over every day, I found that I armored up my heart and my mind so that I didn't have to think about how hard that was and how much suffering I just witnessed. The problem really came when I started to wear my armor home. And I noticed that this was kind of that pivotal moment for me when I started to become burnt out. And I went looking for an antidote to healthcare superhero syndrome. And along the way, I became a courage and a burnout researcher. And I thought that the best way really to talk with her about that was to tell her my story and tell her how I found myself or how I found my way back to myself and what worked for me and what I've found since. And so I think, one of the things that is wildly important in our world today is to start having a global conversation about burnout and what it means. And so in 2019, well before the pandemic, the World Health Organization recognized burnout as an occupational syndrome caused by chronic workplace stress. I think about burnout as an imbalance between workload and resources. And so I learned very early on that where I thought burnout was really something that happened in human services, that it's not exclusive to human services. It's exclusive to humans. And so if we woke up human today, this could be something that we experience if we have an imbalance in our workload and the resources that are available to us. The reasons that I found were most impactful to me around burnout was, in the healthcare realm, because that's what I was experiencing. And I found that nearly twice as many patient safety incidents occur. There's greater than twice the likelihoods of exhibiting poor professionalism, and I doubt that that's different in other occupations. Greater than twice the likelihood of having unsatisfied customers, and that burnout was linked to an increase in disease, disruptive behavior, divorce, depression, and where those things existed, death by suicide, for the employees experiencing it. And this is why I think it's so important for us to start talking about even more so, and not just talking about, but really finding and addressing the root of the issues. But at the time, what I found instead was that to work in human services, we had to get really comfortable with tragedy, pain, suffering, sadness, death. And we realized that we're fragile, vulnerable beings. And all of those sounded like excellent reasons to me to keep my armor on. And so armor is a term that I heard from Pima Chodron, and then pretty close to about the same time, heard this same term described by Dr. Brene Brown. And as you might imagine, this just completely resonated with me because it made me think about those superheroes that, that I loved so much, and this kind of syndrome that or phenomenon of superhero syndrome that I thought I was observing. And so I thought, yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like the way we guard our hearts and minds is through armor. And I know for me that I really recognized every time I was putting on my scrubs and my clogs and, equipping my pockets with my pens and my stethoscope and whatever tools that I needed, I was also putting that armor around my heart and my soul with the thought that I was protecting myself. And so in my search for an antidote to burnout and this perpetual armor, I came to understand a couple of things. One, that we really stopped taking off that armor to protect ourselves and to protect ourselves from that pain and that suffering. But I also found that the effects of protection are just too much. They're too high because we withdraw from the people that we love. We don't sleep. We binge social media. We work too much. We drink too much. We cover up mistakes. We blame, gossip, bully others, turn our heads to courage and doing what's right but hard, where we wouldn't have before. We experience exhaustion and apathy where we used to feel joy, and we get burnt out. I told my daughter that I thought I had found the secret for myself, and that it was, I really couldn't wait for my organization to catch up with, solving all of the things that were in that, imbalance for me that I had to solve for myself. And so what I found, and I didn't sugarcoat this for her, I will tell you that the finding that I got to was both super exciting for me and also very terrifying. It was, very much like my first day in the ER. I found that the only way back to joy and to myself was to walk right through the hard stuff. All of those things that I had shut out. I learned that joy is highly dependent on our ability to connect with all of those feelings and other people. And so it helped me to move into learning about four different practices that really helped me to walk through. It started with courage. And so Dr. Lopez is a courage researcher who shared that courage is the platform on which all mental health rests. And I can tell you, when I started to do my research on courage, I found this to be true for our whole health, the platform on which our whole health rests. And I think it's important for us to talk just a little bit about what courage is not when we talk about courage. So courage is not recklessness, not fearlessness. It's not complete competence. It's a very personal, thoughtful experience of deliberately choosing what's right in the face of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And something that was a little provocative out of my research was that the opposite of courage was not cowardice, that it was protection. Sometimes protection of self and sometimes of others. sometimes both, and that it really existed where a human need was not being met. And let's be honest, to choose protection for ourselves and others from suffering is a completely normal human response. But when we do this as the default, when we allow protection to be our default, it comes at a very hefty price of losing ourselves. So some of the ways that I found that I could practice courage was giving myself permission for the things I needed, giving myself permission to rest, to be kind, to be curious, to slow down. In fact, slowing down for just 5 minutes was shown to have this wild boost in our ability to make better decisions, in our emotional regulation, all of these beautiful things. So just 5 minutes of slowing down was a great place to start. The next thing was connection. And so in thinking about that importance of connecting with others and all of the things that we feel, I read this really beautiful book called Together. And in Together, I learned a couple of things. One, that loneliness had been its own epidemic, and that it's been shown to be the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And the opposite of loneliness being connection. And so some of the ways I think about practicing connection is knowing some of the research that was there. It was so powerful. Like doing random acts of kindness or acts of kindness producing the single most reliable momentary increase of well-being of any of the exercises that were tested by studies done out of the University of Pennsylvania. Amazing work. That relationships really serve as health protective factors and boost our physical health, our mental health, our sleep quality, and our ability to heal our own bodies. That social connection is the greatest predictor of long-term happiness out of the beautiful Harvard study that was done on happiness. And then there was this third C that I had found as ways to really move back through. It was hard for me because it was something that to me looked like self-indulgence, and that was self-care. And I know we've heard so much about that, but for me, I thought that is self-indulgence, and I don't really know how that fits in. What I have come to find is self-care is not self-indulgence. It is maintenance, and it's required. The same way we plug in our phones to charge up the battery, the same way maybe we plug in our cars to charge up the battery or put gas in them or whatever the tools that you need in your life, that you take care of them, right? It's maintenance. Our bodies are no different. They need maintenance, and it's required. And so some of the ways that I think about this in practicing my own self-care is in practicing gratitude daily. And that when we're doing those random acts of kindness and expressing gratitude to others, and we can do this for ourselves as well, but when we express it to others, that you boost the giver's happiness for 7 to 10 days and others for 2 to 3 days. And so we get that positive experience that really helps to start us off on the right foot for the day. That walking in nature, and I love this one. Dr. Strayer's work talked about that walking in nature has a positive effect on our immune system, our problem solving, and our creativity, and that spending 4 days disconnected from our devices in nature boosts our cognitive function by 40 to 50%. I was amazed. And so it made me think, this is that place of having courage again. What do I need permission for? To take a break? To take a walk? To be grateful for something when I'm sitting in a hard moment? To turn off my cell phone? To breathe? to ask for help, maybe to play a little. That remembering that self-care, it's not self-indulgence, it's maintenance and it's required. And then lastly, and I've come to learn recently that this is one of the most powerful ways to either prevent burnout or for us personally to recover from burnout is self-compassion. And so this is that regular practice of being your own best friend. It helps decrease perfectionism thinking, boost our quality of relationships with ourselves and with others, and it helps us to strengthen the ability to bounce back from mistakes. We can do this in so many ways, right? We can post self-compassion mantras in our workspace, or we can post them in our homes, in our cars, wherever. And that might sound like, whatever you need to hear. Maybe it sounds like, I have enough, I am enough. And then practice this in the mirror, like hands on hips, straight spine, and really put power behind that. Or choose a superpower song. So if you're needing to really boost your confidence and feel like, I've got this, I can do this, then what song supports that for you? And plug it in and listen to that before you go and do the thing that's hard, or that feels like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or this is really difficult. And then I would say the thing you can do in the moment, the thing I try to practice in the moment all the time, is that reframing of critical talk into that curious, like, what's going on for me, compassionate talk. And so this is really when we think things like, oh, I can't believe you just said that, or I can't believe that just happened. Instead to say, oh, that just happened. I wonder why, or what was going on, or what do I need right now? And just moving that into a kinder way, the way that you would talk to your friend, instead of, that more critical way that sometimes we talk to ourselves. So I shared those 4 things with my daughter, and I told her that I wear that superhero t-shirt to remind me to take off my armor and to practice my courage, connection, care, and compassion. And that really, that I thought the most important thing I could share with her was that the kindest, most responsible action we can take for others is to take great care of ourselves. And then I ask how she would get started. Thank you. Blessings. Thank you. Have a great day.